As a manager, if I keep solving all the problems for them, what kind of team do I have? I don't have an empowered team. I have a bunch of people doing things and not being what their potential is. You're not running a babysitting empire, you're running a business. Sometimes when people leave, it exposes the gaps in your leadership skills. You are either a great leader or you are a great leader that panics and everybody can see it. And then guess what happens to your notches? At the end of the day, you don't want the wrong people on the ship with you.
We make dental billing and insurance easier to understand. Subscribe to stay updated and help us grow the channel.
We are back with another edition of Nobody Told Me That. And if you're listening on audio, but not on video, you should check out the YouTube because you can see our smiling faces when two people who genuinely like each other and have worked together for so long get on. All you see is like smiling and laughing and all that. And that's what you would get on YouTube because my guest, and honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do an hour. We're going to have to do more. My guest is my dear friend, one of my longest friendships in dentistry, Lorie Streeter. How the heck are you?
Teresa, I'm alive. I'm smiling. So excited to be with you despite our time zones. Thank you for not asking me to be on at 4 a.m. You know, that's a good thing. Most of my East Coast friends love to text me when they're getting up in the morning and I'm like, it's 4, it's 5.
You West Coasties, and you're not even on a coast, you're Idaho. So you have the West Coast time zone, but not the coast. But Idaho is beautiful.
It's beautiful. I know. It's got a spare room waiting for you.
Believe me, I can't wait. So you are at Max Assist, and you are, this title blows me away. It's so fancy smancy, and you're perfect for it. VP of US Expansion, because it's a Canadian company, but they do have offices in the US, and they're like, we need to get into the US. So we'll talk about that. But VP of US Expansion, like how big is your business card? That's a huge title.
I don't even have a business card. I just use a full piece of paper. It's funny because it was just by accident. And I think those are the best things that happen, when something pops up and it's a good fit. And the truth of the matter is my whole entire career, if I had to hone down into one thing in dental that I love, is taking companies who no one knows. And all of my former lives, that's been the best thing for me, whether I was marketing a dental practice or, as my former role at ADOM, that's what I love to do is work with companies and get them known.
Yeah. I mean, you met Heather when she started ADOM, and then the two of you turned it into this empire. And I was happy to be along for a lot of the ride. That's what you did though. I mean, you totally blew it up. So I'm excited for Jeff and the crew at Max Assist because that's going to be their experience now. And it's not, people don't tune out. We're not doing a Max Assist commercial, just real quick. And then we actually have a lot of stuff to talk about as far as management. Max Assist is a Canadian company. And I met Jeff, oh my gosh, when he started, I think he was brand new. It was called Recall Max back then. I think there was even a name before that. I'm not sure. And I loved his product back then, but there was nothing really for me as far as, what I was doing. And then he was at ADOM. It was good to see him and product evolved. And then when I took a look at it recently, I was like, oh, this is so far from what I first saw. So congratulations to Jeff for growing this product too.
He's got a great foresight for that kind of thing. And, 400 years plus of dentistry, and most companies are in multiple verticals. They focus on dental. There's just so many things, and we can get into that some other time. But I just feel like I've landed, like my spaceship is dropped into the right portal, and I'm like, oh, I'm home. So
awesome.
Feel really good about that.
And you're learning all about recare stuff. I mean, not that you didn't know it, but the behind the scenes is so different. Recares, dashboards, AI, tests and stuff.
I'm learning about so many things, and so many things I'm like, oh, I was way ahead of this. And then other things I'm like, oh, where have I been? So, it's just one of those things. Dentistry is elusive. It's a cool thing to do.
Well, and you started out as a manager, as did I. And you posted recently a picture of you in scrubs from way back when. I was cracking up because I was like, I don't even know if I have any pictures of myself in scrubs. Like, you're brave to post that. That's great. So there's a thing with office manager. So let's talk about office managers, because you and I, that's like our power. Like that's our burning thing, that keeps us going is our love for the managers. When you were a manager, and this kind of ties in with what you were saying, like we really think we know so much about everything. It's not that we don't know and we're like, ignorant. That's not the word. Like we're so good at this little bubble that we're in. Then when your bubble expands, you're like, oh God, there's so much more. And then when your bubble expands, so much more. And it feels like seems like that's what you're going through. There's like another bubble layer that you're kind of into. But you said something to me, we were talking, and I remember I was reading something that you had sent over, and it's like, stop managing like it's 1999. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that, because of course, Prince, first of all, I like anything that's a reference to Prince, and you're Minnesota too. So you know all about Prince. So when you say stop managing like it's 1999, and it's like, you were mentioning like micromanaging, like that's out. So let's talk about that, because 1999, I was fresh in the dental world, and I was managing, and I was terrible in the beginning years of management. It was terrible. I was a micromanager. It was awful. So what is your idea of 1999 versus now? Like, what made you make that comment? It cracked me up.
I'm thinking that like, if you manage like you're a flip phone, like your team is already checked out. So I was a team of one, so I usually micromanage myself, and I think that's where I learned it, right? My first experience, you were talking about that picture, the thing that you don't notice when you're looking at the team, I tell people, I'm like, but did you notice the difference between me and the hygienist, the doctor, the assistant? My scrub top was tucked in where theirs was out. I had a tooth pin, and I had taken rhinestones and put them in the eyes. I mean, and micromanaging to me really means that you're managing to what you think is best, not like what everybody's strengths are. You're not a strength finder. You're honing in on what you think they should do like you. And I don't know about you, but if there was like on my team, like 5 of me, I would like hate all of them probably.
Initially you would think that you would love it, right?
Yeah,
But I think I would. I think I absolutely would, because I would be like, stop telling me you know better. Like, really?
That's funny. Like, nobody ever told me that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And the hovering that those type of managers do. That's the hard part. If you think about it, it's the manager where you feel like you can hear them breathing over here. Yeah. And honestly, what we want to build more of is I want people to do things and solve problems before they get back to me. I don't want them to get all the way to me. As a manager, I want people to start self-soothing like a baby, they say, let them try it out. I want them to self-soothe, because at the end of the day, if I keep solving all the problems for them, what kind of team do I have? I don't have an empowered team. I have a bunch of people doing things and not being what their potential is. So
honestly, some of our team members do need to, I mean, you say cry it out, but some of them do, because sometimes they make mountains out of molehills, and that happening once is okay. Like, you can have a meltdown. I've had meltdowns, right? But if you're having continual meltdowns without seeking a solution, like, there's a bigger problem going on there,
Yeah, no, but let's face it, you're not running a babysitting empire. You're running a business. So that's
it did feel like it, didn't it, though?
That's one of the toughest things about managing is you're literally, and I think that falls into that 1999 philosophy, is you're not mothering. And I think so many of us, and totally guilty, me, you get into a role where you feel like you're mothering people. And, it's just a natural instinct, especially for the female managers to be in. And I'm sure there's some fatherly things that the male managers do. I mean, I think that's just kind of the roles we fall into, but it's kind of archaic. And I've learned from now working for a software company, Teresa, that people don't talk like this anymore. There's a whole different culture that talks a whole different way. And we are kind of behind, dentistry is always kind of on that weird wave of a little behind, not all the way behind, but a little. And part of that I love, because I don't want to go too far, too fast in dentistry. But on the flip side, there's some management things that I think are pretty slow and tired that we need to move away from.
Well, let me get your take, because you were in a small office. I was in a small office, and then we grew. And you grew too. Your practice grew, right?
Was
it always small?
Well, it was big and full. That didn't come from a time of multiple associates and that kind of thing.
Okay.
A single doctor.
Yeah, so I had the multiple associates. Whew, okay, so here's what I want to ask you about. And what I love about this conversation, Lorie, is you and I talk so much about how to help managers and educate managers over the years. I don't know if you and I ever talked about like the managing, like comparing and talk. Like, I don't know if we ever did that. That's so funny.
I know.
It just
True.
hit me. So in a small office, it's hard, I think, to let someone go and work it out. It's so geographically proximity, like they're going to go work it out in the very next room. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's different. So when you're saying, find a solution, come to me, I think in a small office, that's much harder because there's nowhere else for them to go. There's another team member for them to bounce it off. And then any mood or any changes in behavior, like it's so much more amplified because there aren't other people there to buffer it. So how did you, as a small office with a small team, did you have to be more acutely aware of issues before they came up, or did you learn to let things evolve, or did you try to like get it right in the beginning? Because that was my problem. Is when I saw there was an issue, I wanted to stamp it out in the beginning, and that was wrong for me.
Here's a funny you'd say that. I think some of my PTSD skills came in handy as an office manager because if you talk about trauma responses and all this, I don't want to get too coachy, but like at the end of the day, so people that have had a high level of stress, or, I was a performer my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. So on stage, it's high energy, all the things. I'm constantly perusing a room for the biggest threat. And that's a very trauma response, like to look and do that. I did it as a performer too. I wanted to see who was happy, who wasn't happy. What did that look like? So I would peruse my practice all the time. And if I saw something happening, I was acutely aware before it was even to the full boiling point. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but have you ever heard an assistant or a hygienist slamming doors to, where trays are and setting things down really hard? I mean, there's some subtle signs. I worked in a couple of environments, I won't say where, but a couple of environments where the doctor would fight with the assistant. I mean, they'd go knock down, drag out. Wow. And I don't think that doesn't happen. I think sometimes it does. Yeah. You are working so close together, and it's basically like your one body, right hand, left hand, depending on the type of dentistry. It's hard not to have a marriage right there. And normal, healthy marriages fight. So to answer your question, you wanted to stamp it out. I would notice it immediately and listen. And I would take more inventory for myself of how I was going to operate in that situation. Okay. I never usually really pull apart the situation and look at it from all the sides. I would go, what am I going to do here? And instantly self-monitor. And it worked for me, but again, very small office. Yeah. When I got to a large DSO, that was right out the window. I had to work with 1 million people. So
talk to me about that. How is that? First of all, it's probably a shock, I'm sure, but you had multiple people, some of them looking at you like you don't know what you're doing. I mean, how is it stepping into that role?
Well, the good news is I was in charge of marketing, so it didn't bother me too much. I was out of the fray. But the nice thing is, especially when you have that kind of juxtaposition, is you're looking at the practice going, how do I market that practice? And you're doing the same thing. You're evaluating. What do they look like? What are the layers? And I think from all the regional managers that I worked with, all the regular managers, the struggles were consistent throughout the board. There was not some weird anomaly, like, she keeps wearing those brown shoes and I don't like them. It was not like odd things. It was the simple same things. This one shows up. This one smells bad. This one, that's all the things we've heard of and we know. I'm getting so old now, Teresa. Like I was around when my doctor could smoke in the office, like almost literally.
I know.
Talk about 99.
That's only like a couple years before. I think you started maybe a couple years before I did in dentistry. So I started in dentistry in 93.
90.
Yeah. So just a couple years. And my boss's dad was the type that when he was made to wear gloves, he was like, this is BS. Like, why are we doing this? And now like, you can't even imagine like how weird is that? The
dentist that I worked for, he was such a good clinician. He was a brilliant, he was I'll do the 3-root endo. I'll take out that tooth that's been rotted for 65 years. He would do anything and everything because he went to Vietnam. So like he did dentistry in Vietnam, you can only imagine. So he would do anything. Nothing fazed him. Very, very good clinician. But he always used to sneak around the corner before he'd see a patient and he would dabbed this stuff on his tongue. I don't know what it was called, but I know it was like orange and it had a real nice smell. And I
Ah,
always wondered what was in that secret bottle. I'm like, maybe I'd be a better manager if I could put that stuff on my tongue too. I mean, I'm not going to tell you I did or did. I don't know what it was. I think I think dentists know what it is, but I'm not sure office managers do. I'm like,
if there's something.
I never had a brown bottle underneath my counter that people. I mean, mine would be more like a flask, but I never
I,
I never was driven to drink, thank God.
Yeah, it's so funny because I remember being at a CE event with a doctor and it didn't shock me. It shouldn't have shocked me because he's one of those guys that like I think is better when he's had a little bit of a toss back. And from the front of the room, he like had a glass of bourbon and he's like, you know what? You're going to get the best lecture. Just let me have a drink here. I mean, he just said it and I was like, oh my God. And he gave a great lecture, but
Like,
I'm not advocating, of
I
course,
know.
that you
I'm
need to
with you.
drink.
I'm with you. I'm just saying the Ron White of dentistry. I'm sure he's out there somewhere. So
I'm sure the
yeah,
Ron White, that's so funny.
I mean, I
Mhm.
think Teresa is. We're talking about kind of being that old-fashioned micromanager. I teach teams on, back in the culture of how to help a rep talk to an office manager. I have some personas for office managers, and one of my favorites is I call it the pirate. And there's a reason. She's older and she sometimes there's still a pegboard. I mean, I know that we don't think we're going to see that anymore, but I mean, I talked to an office the other day and they don't even have a hygienist. I mean, I know our culture is changing. I just don't want it to go back. Let's take a few steps forward and not 20 back. That's all I'm asking for.
It's so wild because the pegboard, and for those of you who are younger, the pegboard was a way of accounting. I mean, that was our ledger, not the computer. It was our ledger. And thankfully that did go away because what a mess. But it's so cyclical, but because you're saying this office didn't even have a hygienist, and now we're in an atmosphere where I know doctors who actively are not hiring hygienists, like they're not doing it. It's like, wow. So as much as our industry has changed, there's still that whole, it all comes down to the people, really. Like the reason why they don't want a hygienist, first of all, it's hard for them to find one, but they're like, it's another person, it's another extra person, like they have to manage and stuff. And I think if we weren't afraid of that, I think we would be okay with embracing and growing our teams. But it goes back to understanding the importance of the teams. And I think a lot of times doctors and managers, not just doctors, see teams as a way to get things done, not as a way to enhance like the whole experience.
Yeah, and I took a couple notes and I keep this is like, something stares at you. So I have to say this because I think it's relevant for this piece is that I think we've gotten so used to now managing tasks, filling operatories, moving schedules, this and that. We're not leading people anymore. We're just managing tasks. And I think that's the worst. I mean, I do that in my marriage. I want to do that in my office too, right? So let's check off your honeydew list. We're a task-driven society.
Yeah.
I think that comes up in dentistry. You have all these office managers have so many things that they have to do during the day. The old metaphors, I wear 64 hats, I do all these things. I have to be a babysitter, a therapist. But the truth of the matter is when you start managing that way, did I do these 5 things? Did I do these 6 things? I'm a list person, but yet at the same time, I'm a people person. So I care about the people. So I think we've lost a little bit of the empathy there. Not all managers are like that, but I think, if you look at the 1999 reference, we're going to party like it's 1999. I have love Prince too. I know right where I was when he died. Like I know the place, the time. It's like all other major events in the world. I know where I was when Prince died. But he says party like it's 1999. If you manage like it's 1999, that's the output you're going to get, and that's the team you're going to get.
That's a good thought. I like that. Well, and this was the hardest thing, I think, for me, just managing the people in general was much better with my claims and my numbers. That was like, they didn't give me any grief. However, there was always like this thing when your employee quits, when your employee leaves. Okay. And sometimes, there's more than one employee because things come in threes. Like it always happens. Like somebody gets pregnant, quit, somebody's getting deployed somewhere, like, and then you're like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
First of all, most of us don't expect when somebody quits. So that's like your whole world is turned upside down. Now on top of everything else that you're doing, now you're probably going to have to step up and do some extra stuff. Now you've got to hire people. There's, the market may not be great. And what happens if, Like we need someone, like an assistant. If you need an assistant or the doctor is totally grumpy and things go bad, right?
Yeah.
So then you panic hire, which is something you and I have talked about in the past. So what happens when they quit? Like as a manager, how does your brain switch into, does it switch into survival mode or does it switch into problem solving mode? Like now what's going on?
Yeah, for me, both. I mean, let's be honest. You know, there's some of the panic where there's some semantics you have to cover right away, right? There's schedules, there's things, there's people depending on you. So there's that piece. But I think from an introspective standpoint, if people are leaving, and especially if it's a shock, you better stop and take a look at your culture. You better stop and take a look at your management style, your overall leadership, because at the end of the day, you don't want the wrong people on the ship with you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think of it like you and I have talked about going on a cruise, right? How fun that would be. Right. And I'm like, the only thing that keeps me like hesitating to go, I'm like, I got to be stuck on a ship with these people that I don't know for 4 or 5 days. I'm like, what does this look like really? What's going to happen here if I don't like the environment? And I think that holds true for a dental practice too. I think you don't just need another warm body. Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble for this. So stop me right now. If you need to edit this out, go ahead. I don't know that there is the big shortage that everybody thinks there is.
Ooh, okay. And John, my fantastic VA, don't you dare edit this out. All right. So let's explore that. But can I just say one thing? When you said trapped on a ship, there's a Netflix movie, The Poop Cruise, where they got stuck. They lost electricity, and it's exactly what happened. So we are going to go on a cruise eventually, you, me, Norman, and Roger. But please don't watch that because now I'll never get you onto a cruise. So, but just
Alaska near the shore. I want to stay near the shore.
Can you imagine being frozen and there's no toilet? Like I would even be like, Lorie, you were right. So, okay. So let's go back to, there is not the shortage. Okay. So now you've got like office managers that just pulled off to the side of the road and they're like, what are you talking about? There's a shortage. Explain yourself, Lorie Streeter.
Okay. So you might know, I probably have told you this. I went to coaching school for 5 years. Okay. So I went to school with these very smart people. I'm not saying I was, I'm just saying I thought they were all very smart. And one of the things they taught us was like, when you grow a field, like, oh, that's so woo-woo. You know, you've always had real weird nicknames for me when I took Reiki. You're like, oh, Master Splinter and all that stuff. I mean, I still love that. I know I still love that. So when I say Reiki Master, it always goes to Splinter right afterward. So there's a field that we create. You know, it's kind of like someone saying, if you say gratitude statements 20 times and this becomes a pattern and, you know, you take the record needle and you move it to a different place in your brain. I really think that overall, if we see 20 people on message boards saying, I can't find anybody, I can't find a hygienist, there's no assistant, where is everybody? You start hearing that, and it's kind of similar to the media. I hate to even say that, but it's true. If someone tells you over and over again, orange popsicle, pretty soon, everywhere you're looking, all you see is orange popsicles, right?
Echo chamber.
I'm not saying that it's not tough, and especially rural areas and those kind of things. But I do think, I mean, I have a TikTok page. There's more flipping hygienists on there than Carter has milk. So I don't think that was the saying, but you know what I mean? So there's a ton of hygienists out there. So all I'm saying is we just have to be really careful. For me, and again, woo-woo, I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to attract, by my leadership style, my excellent clinician, my wonderful team that I have put together, I'm going to attract the perfect person. Because, I mean, I don't know, I was thinking about this metaphor, like if you hire somebody out of panic, it's like going to the grocery store when you're hungry.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to fill your cart with trash. Right? You're not going to come out with all the good fruits and vegetables and all the things that we know are going to make us healthy and a stronger team. We're going to come back and go, hi, meet Skittle.
Yeah, that is so true. I never thought of it that way. You're right. And then that comes back in the office and you start to normalize like the bad hires. And then you kind of self-soothe by saying, well, the market's tough.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So all I'm saying is don't use that as an excuse. Don't excuse it away why you hired Skittle, and don't excuse it away why things are falling apart or you're overly stressed. sometimes we just take a step back and kind of center. Sometimes when people leave, it exposes the gaps in your leadership skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When someone leaves, the rubber meets the road, and you are either a great leader or you are a great leader that panics and everybody can see it. And then guess what happens to your notches?
Yeah.
It's a challenge. And I get it. I get that it's hard right now, but I think that field of there's no talent, that's a terrible place for us to be.
Yeah,
because that bleeds out into other areas. So we don't want that. We want to think as positive and probable as we possibly can. I mean, I try to live my life that way. I mean, y'all know I've been through a challenge with losing my job, getting a new one, that whole thing. If I would have stopped and said, oh my gosh, there's no jobs for me, guess what? I would not have found a job. And I found one totally by accident. So I love the metaphor, build a bench. Mm-hmm. So I'm a doctor, I'm an office manager, I'm in a network. This old adage, I don't know about you, but when I was in dentistry, they were like, don't talk to Dr. Smith's office. He's trying to steal our patients.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that old, we broke that mold with ADOM, right? You've got to have a community. So when I say build a bench, it's kind of like your ladder. It's like build a bench. Make sure that you have other people. I want to know, Joe Smith's hygienist. I want to know I want to be in meetings and cultures and partake in things where I meet other people. So if all of a sudden there's a seat on my bench, someone might just come over and go, I really like your bench. I've sat on there a couple times in a meeting we were together. So I just, build a bench and celebrate your people who stay with you.
Yeah. That's so important. Because I think when you've been with the practice for so long, if you're not celebrated, you definitely start to feel like part of the furniture. You said something really important, and I want to just kind of focus in on this because there's a lot of doctors that listen. And so it just doesn't apply to managers, but the team watches you. Like you said, when you panic hire and your leadership skills, the team is watching you. And you may not think, well, of course they're watching me, but they then anticipate your future moves based on how you've acted in the past.
Absolutely.
And so first of all, if you let someone get away with bad behavior, they're going to expect that every new hire you bring in is not going to work like they are. And then there's this slow demotivation of why am I working so hard when so-and-so comes in, paid more probably, doesn't work as hard. But when you don't discipline someone or, take corrective actions, that really stands out to the team. And they're not going to tell you they're watching, but they're silent observers. And if you're lucky, they'll tell you. I mean, honestly, if you're lucky, but our teams don't tend to tell us how to do our job. They just look to see if they vibe with how we're running the office. Yeah. So, you letting people get away with stuff it's not ignored, but also, like you said, panic hiring, they're already going to be annoyed at the whole situation, your team, but they're going to be really annoyed that you didn't vet someone to come into the family. That's really what it is. It's a family, right? So what if we do have to, well, hold on. Let me rephrase. Would you rather bring in temps or would you rather go without, or would you rather what would you do as a manager? Because let's take the job of the assistant, because that is the one job, like the doctors freak out not having an assistant. So what happens there? What would you do?
Well, to go back to my marketing days, Teresa, I'm sorry. I'd be down at the assistant school handing out cookies and snacks and evaluating personalities way ahead of the time that I needed somebody. And honestly, I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I would never want to be caught with my pants down. Sorry, it's a bad way to say it, but you know what I mean. I think that having a culture where people want to seek you out is super important. So I would be preemptively looking all the time. Because let's face it, things change. So I would just put myself in situations where I might have access to those kind of people. But you asked me if I would hire a temp. I would figure out a way or a best practice. So here's where it comes in, the coaching piece. So if I know my doctor and I know my team, I'm going to seek out the right person, which means my ad is not going to be ChatGPT'd. It's going to be, I'm going to write the ad and I'm going to write it from the intention of knowing the office. And I'm going to explain who we are so we attract exactly what we want. Same metaphor as the grocery store. If I walk in with my paper going, can you point me to the junk food aisle? I'm going to get Skittle, right? Or I'm going to get Starburst. I love these names. Now
I
I
know.
want this for my grandchildren. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any grandchildren, but I want one named Skittle. No, I'm just kidding. So that could have been my rapper name.
I was going to say
I feel like I've done that,
DJ
but
Skittles.
yeah, but to answer clearly, it would really depend on the situation. I think I would try the really substantive ad first. I would hit my network of people. And if you don't have a network of people, you're not a good manager. You have to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, honestly, like there's a lot of masterminds out there. Find your, local group of managers, and then also LinkedIn. I mean, you have to be visible because if someone's looking for somebody in the area, the one thing that I'm glad that more managers are open to this is talking to the companies, because sometimes sales reps, I would get approached by sales reps in our area saying, hey, do you want to have dinner with a couple other managers I know? But if you're invisible to the world, like, and we had a care credit rep that for years regularly, got us all together to meet in our area. And, we would keep an eye out for new people in the area via LinkedIn or whatever. It was great.
My Patterson rep got me my first corporate job.
Yeah.
Patterson. I mean, that's how you stay connected. And I think this bubble leadership style where people come into the office, and I mean, that goes back to that pirate mentality. We may not be using a pegboard anymore, but if you stay in that bubble where when something happens, you're panicked.
Yeah.
And the worst thing to do as a leader is to panic.
Well, it is tough because you do feel the pressure, but that also leads into another topic, the whole coping mechanisms, because the number one thing that we've been hearing since COVID, I mean, we heard it before COVID, but holy cow, was burnout. I mean, and we lost a lot of good people after COVID. People were just like, screw it, dentistry sucks. And then some of them came back. And I really do believe the people are different. Our patients are different. The country is different. Everybody's impatient. They want things done immediately.
Yep.
It's just
your fault. It's your fault,
yes.
Teresa. You did it. Yeah. It's your fault.
So many of the managers that I know are continuing to say, I'm going somewhere else. I'm getting a job. I'm doing this. It's got benefits. It's better. People suck, all this stuff. What are we missing in dentistry? Managers and doctors specifically, the leaders of the practice. What are we missing? Like, how are we supposed to deal with that when you're on the cusp of burnout? So
no,
what's going on?
It's a good pivot because, I mean, let's face it, all those things come out when you're stressed or you're panicked. And I always say you can't out snack a bad work day, but I'm seeing, unfortunately, all these things happening. So for example, I told somebody the other day, I'm like, if wine is your therapist, we need to have a different conversation. So, when I went through coaching school, I kind of went for myself. There were things about my life I wanted to change, not necessarily my job, but just some internal habits. And I'll never forget, Heather and I talked at length, about coaching school did for me. And I'm not telling everybody to go to coaching school. I'm just saying that from me in perspective, she said, you are a completely different person. And I think that's my reaction to certain things that changed. So I think with all the changes that we've seen, our reaction is everything. So back to this leadership principle, if you can't lead other people, that's because most likely you can't lead yourself.
Okay.
So the culture of burnout that I'm seeing right now is really scary because people are doing all kinds of things to cope. And if you're a person that goes home and scrolls continuously on your phone and, I don't know about you, it's like hard to keep it out of your marriage. It's hard to keep it out of your kids' hands. It's everywhere. We don't live in a society where people connect. And that's one of the things that I love. Sorry to be self-serving, but the company that I work for, they're all about connection. Their motto is sitting on the wall. And I think this should be in every dental office because it doesn't apply to dental offices. But I'll tell you, you could add the end at the little tagline could be anything. Our little sign says, we believe that connection builds growth and we don't mind selling software to do it. And I love that. So you can kind of put that anywhere. We believe in connecting with our patients, right? Mm-hmm. Because we believe connection equals great dentistry. And that's part of the problem. If you reverse engineer this, we're disconnecting everywhere. Yeah. Just the fact that you and I were able to get a time on our calendar where we could talk. I mean, this is the first time I've been on your podcast. You've had it for how long?
Oh my! I feel a million years. It feels.
And we've been friends for a million years. We've been in dentistry together, but you just take it for granted that I'll talk to Teresa later. I'll ask her about that, or I'll do this. we're so busy being busy that we're losing the human connection that, and I know this might get fluffy for some people, but sorry, we're moving to a fluffless society. And fluffy is what makes us human, So as I always say, let me ask Teresa Duncan. I always say her full name. Let me ask Teresa Duncan because she's one of the smartest people I know. And the reason there's a go-to like that is because I have a connection with you where I know that you're going to be 100% real with me.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a culture where our phones are our friends, our teammates are transactional. And unfortunately, that breeds disconnection. And I think, in terms of how we self-care, people just go, oh, it's a spa day. I just need a spa day. Let's face it. I don't know about you. Like, I don't even have probably time to get my toes polished. Like, I go to sit down and I'm like, I got other things. I had my hair done yesterday. It was took 3 hours. I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
But the truth is, that's because you're so wound to a certain point, you can't unwind down enough to set that spa day. So, little things like boundaries and looking out for energy sucks. I speak on the health and wellness of the office manager. There's a reason why if I've got a list of 10 things I speak on, they're always going to pick that one.
Yeah.
Because no one can crack that nut. And here's the worst part. Every time I give my presentation on that, Teresa, there's at least 2 crying in the audience.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because here's the reality of it. When you are burnt out, it's because you've cared at such a high level about something and you're on the edge and you're walking around on the edge. It's just, there's tension and the tension just doesn't release until someone plucks the string. So your health and wellness, there's a class I give that's called Nobody Told Me That, Management Things We Need to Talk About. And the one thing that gets people, and you probably have a trigger, one thing that I say in classes and I say to them, one of you will come up to me crying or call me crying, and it's okay. I want that. And it's when I say you cannot care more about the practice than the practice owner. Like you cannot. It's impossible because you will never have peace with that. Like you have to care about something only as much as that person will let you. And if you are caring more, then that's an unfair burden that you've taken on. So then that starts the crying. Yeah. So is there a phrase or two or situation that is the biggest trigger? Maybe somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, what do they mean? What is Lorie talking about that makes them cry? What is 1 or 2 things that trigger somebody in the audience? Because you can see it, can't you, in their eyes? Like you can see when you've hit it.
For sure. I think, I've been saying lately, I'm too better to be bitter. I think bitterness and resentment are a huge trigger. When you start talking about those kind of things, if you're resentful about going to work, if you get up dreading your day, and I'm not having the depression conversation, and that's a whole nother topic. I think what you and I talked about was, dentistry's not going to kill you, but your coping mechanisms might, right? So I think when I'm talking to that group and I see somebody start to lose it, it comes when you talk a little bit about disrespect. When people get disrespected or they feel that imposter syndrome where they're trying to be the manager that they think they should be and they're not just being themselves. Imposter syndrome is probably a real thing in somebody's mind somewhere. But when I think about it, I think to myself, you're just trying to be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
So when you get in that role, and let's face it, you're either thrown into it. Nobody grows up and says, I can't wait to be a dental office manager. Right? There's none of that. None of that. It happens. You either get hired for the role or you're in the back, you move to the front, you're a hygienist, your wrists are sore, your arms are sore, your back is sore, you move to the front. There's all these reasons why you might escalate to the role of office management, or you and I both know may not even have the title. I think the triggering piece is I'm not good enough. I'm not making a difference. It's all the self-degradation that we see, that when you start talking about things, when they relate to that, that's when they get scared. So I think the trigger that I see is when people relate to say something you're talking about, that they go, oh boy, I was going to say the S word, but oh snap, that's me.
Yeah.
And that's when they get, and then it's and how do I stop doing that? How do I get out of that? And so that's when they come, because they're looking to you to say, how do I stop this? And doctors, let's talk to the doctors that are listening. I was the one that stayed behind while everybody went to the dental conference. I was the one that had to answer the phone or take care of things. I was the negligible loss leader to take care of those so everybody else could go learn to earn their CE. It should be just the opposite. I don't care what you do as long as it's solid, good education, but a spa day is not going to cut it.
Right.
Education's going to cut it. Feeling like you know what you're doing. Taking leadership classes, take a coaching class. I mean, all the things. That's really what's going to help. If you are a doctor and you see your office manager silently crying in the corner, and I'm not kidding, that happens.
This does absolutely happen.
Wake up, because you're hurting someone by not recognizing how hard it is for them to process their day.
And we're not saying that as a accusation. It's a growth opportunity for you to realize the impact that you have on somebody. Because as a manager, I wanted so badly to make everything perfect for my boss. It's not like I had this like adoration of him. That's not what it was about, or her. It was, my job is so important to me. That's the job. And I need to do this so well. And when you don't get the recognition, and we're not looking for flowers and all that, like the recognition, the thank you, but also when you don't feel supported. That's another thing that comes up a lot in classes, is the manager will work really hard to get something into place, new rules, processes, whatever. And the doctor comes along and says, well, don't worry about it. You can do that. And that, I have seen amazing managers leave offices because they didn't feel supported in that way. I think I heard that with a bunch of the managers' offices and classes that I took. That is one of the number one things I ask about in classes: who has felt unsupported or cut off at the knees by a doctor? And so many of the managers raise their hands, and it's so startling when doctors look around, and because they're like, oh my God, like they don't know they're doing it. Right. I don't think that they know that they're doing it. So what do you say to a manager that's in that? I love you that you're a coach here. I love picking your coaching brain, your fluffy coaching brain. What do you do when you're a manager and you're in that situation where you're trying to do something and now the doctor has turned you into the big bad because they're just going to do whatever they want anyways? The team, it's good parent, bad parent, right?
Right. Like, absolutely.
What's that situation? How do you extricate yourself from that
situation? I know, right? Well, first of all, you don't eat the Skittles. You don't binge eat. Let's make sure we do healthy things. I think at that point, it's a serious conversation with your doctor. And there's some boundaries that you have to set as an office manager. Let's face it, as human beings, we have to say, this is okay with me, this is not okay with me. And where can I live in that space? If you don't know who you are as a human, as a manager, that's going to happen every time because you've set no boundary. And my mother, I love my mother, I hate that word boundaries. I'm like, amen. But let's break the word down for a minute. A boundary is something that you put up so that people know that this is your space and that's their space. Okay. So I think boundaries are about meeting people at the end of your comfort zone and them doing the same. So if you can explain it in that way to your doctor that says, every time I make a decision, if you reverse the decision, you're basically taking from me and removing a little bit more of my fence till there won't be anything left. So you might as well not have an office manager. And I've had that experience firsthand. I used to work with a practice in Minnesota, and the doctors made all the decisions, and there was a person who acted as the office manager but didn't have the title, right? That's the quintessential office manager doing the role but doesn't get empowered. It does nothing for your practice. And I know every doctor in the country would probably say, but they'll steal. I'm worried about embezzlement. I'm worried about this.
Oh my God.
Again, talk about building a field.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were both trusted office managers. We grew into empowered leaders. Yeah. That's what happens when people trust you. And I'm not saying to be stupid. I'm saying to trust and respect each other's boundaries. I mean, if I had a doctor that was doing that to me consistently, I wouldn't be calling a coach and asking them what to do. I would say, these are my boundaries. If this is what you can do, we're going to work together great for the rest of our lives. The rest of your practice life, I'll help you grow. If not, I need to go find some place that will honor this. Yeah. So don't sell yourself short. I mean, as an office manager, at the end of the day, You have to surround yourself with people like Teresa Duncan, my friend, who will say, you're doing this wrong. This is what I want you to look at. And I've never one time ever thought that you said anything to me that you thought should change. I've never once thought, oh, she's just a bee. She's just trying to tell me what to do. Never. You know when people are genuinely telling you this is going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. And doctors should feel that way about their teams. What amazes me, Teresa, is that there's so many office managers out there at the end of their rope treating this practice like it's theirs.
Yes.
Every dollar that they own, it's going into their banking account. Everything that happens is their responsibility. I used to take calls, emergency calls, and I wasn't even supposed to all weekend long, just so the doctor could take a vacation or buy a new car or do whatever. What's the Marianne Williamson poem? It's like, there's no sense in shrinking so that other people, you got to be who you are, but you can't kill yourself in the process, right?
Right.
So dentistry won't kill you, but how you cope with it, could. So
absolutely.
We want these managers, looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, today I got this. And everybody around me is going to, play nice in the sandbox. And if they don't, you jump right back to the center and say to yourself, I've got this.
Yes.
So it's not out of your control fully. So I hope that helps. I'm going to send you a bag of Skittles. We can't eat them because the food died, but that's okay.
No, I'll still, I'll look at them longingly. So it's okay. Master Skittles now. It's not Master Splinter now. It's Master Skittles. And for those of you who are too young, Master Splinter was like the wise old rat that led the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And in 50 years from now, that sentence I just said is going to sound absolutely ridiculous.
I know, right? I know.
So, but you said, so just, and we got to wrap it up because I just knew we were running out of time.
I know.
Here's the thing. There was and I know that I'm not saying it right, but I think it's an Emily Dickinson poem where like two candles burning bright, two flames burning bright. It's a whole flame thing, and I'll find it. And John, my wonderful editor, will probably find it before I send it to him. But basically, for someone's light to shine brighter, yours should not diminish.
Correct.
Why can't they shine together at the same time?
Yeah.
And so, but I feel like that is what in your example before, we are going to make sacrifices to make someone burn really bright, but that doesn't mean you shrink down a little bit. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And you can't love it more than the person does. Same, not just for the owner. If you have an assistant, you can't love that job more than the assistant does, because that assistant will never, ever, rise to your level. Then hygienist, same thing.
Are you a dental biller feeling overwhelmed and isolated? I get it. The world of revenue cycle management is complex and ever-changing. That's why I created Dental Revenue Network. Our membership community was created to help you become a better revenue cycle manager and small business operator. Say goodbye to feeling alone and hello to a supportive community of dental billing professionals. Here's what you'll get: monthly billing-focused meetings with peers and experts, business building sessions to elevate your career, resource libraries tailored for billers and billing company owners, introductions to cutting-edge RCM technologies and companies, and a vibrant community for networking and support. Ready to transform your dental billing experience? Visit dentalrevenuenetwork.com today. Don't wait. Join us now and navigate the business of RCM with confidence.
So we'll have you on to talk about your company and your software and all of that, and that'll be later. And your boss isn't even worried about that now. No. Your new boss isn't worried about that. But how do people find you? Because you now have new emails. You have, I think, a new Instagram. I know I followed you. Where are people going to find you, Lorie?
Yeah, Lorie Streeter maxed out on Instagram. Lorie Streeter maxed out on TikTok. Friend me on Facebook. I mean, I'm a pretty open book. Find me on LinkedIn. We can share my, if you're crazy, what does this crazy gal do for a living? I've got a demo link we can put in the show notes. I mean, okay. I work for a great company. We're going to end up talking about the software at some point, and I'm not really worried about it. I think at the end of the day, Teresa, this is so helpful to just have conversations with peers like you and I, where we're just talking about real things that come up with real people. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you and I have been through most of it. Right?
Yes.
I mean, if you did a show about what are the weirdest things in dentistry you've ever seen, I swear I'd have a 2-hour talk. because
I think so.
Yeah, I've seen the weirdest things.
Yeah, it would be a regular podcast, like the case of the patient who brought in their urine sample, the case of the patient who brought in whatever, the case of the manager who threw charts in left. And I mean, you got them.
Yeah, so. The case of the man that walked up and handed me his denture into my hand, like here, take this. I mean, we've seen it all. So thank you for this time. And I love that your podcast is very honest and open. You know, it's not just, let's talk about case acceptance. I mean, no offense. I know people have to talk about that, but what fun is that? We're out here living real life. So thank you.
Case acceptance for real, though, because case acceptance is not easy. And that's the hard part. That's what nobody tells you. That's there you go. I closed the loop on that. All right. Miss Lorie Streeter at Max Assist, and you will be available. I put it in the show notes. John will hook us up, and you'll be back on, I know. And I'm excited to see you on the road at some point. But
our Alaskan cruise.
But until then, I will continue to send you funny memes back and forth on Instagram, because that's what we do now, right? We're meme friends now. So
we love that. I love that. And you find the ones I'll never find. So there you go.
Dear listeners, as always, I appreciate that you spend your time with me.
If you learned something new today, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep learning with us.
We're all super busy, so thank you for making time for me today. The show notes will have any links that we referenced in the episode. You can also find links for my book, events, and my online insurance course, Dental Insurance Design and Management. I speak often around the country on management and insurance issues. Come hang out with me in one of my classes. I promise you'll laugh and learn.